22nd, 2019.
Posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 19th, 2018, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December 27, 2018, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and local radio stations on December 19, 2018. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Public Access Channel 21 at 7 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Please rise for flag salute. Grignani, if you would.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero,
Here.
Ms. Grignani,
present.
Ms. McCarthy,
Here.
Ms. Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Carriffy.
Here.
Also in attendance are Business Administrator Keith Kazmark, Mayor Michael Soriano, Township Attorney Jim Lott, and Township Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, February 5th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Agenda meeting, February 19th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Regular meeting. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, December 18th, 2018. Motion to approve the above minutes made by myself.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call. Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes. Presentations, reports. Mayor, anything? No? Good. Township Council, Township Committees.
Council
Mr.
President, I'd like to nominate for the Traffic Advisory Committee, Vincent Schindel and Eric Densmore.
Second.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Mr. Mr. DePiero nominated and Ms. Grignani seconded, but we just need to make a note here. There's only at this particular point for this committee, there is one opening. And so therefore, Mr. Vincent Schindel will get it. Mr. Dinsmore will be placed on file, and the next time there's an opening, he will be up to be reappointed. But at this point in time, we can only appoint Mr. Schindel, as we only have one appointment. So with that being said, Mr. DePiero has made the motion. Ms. Grignani has seconded it. We will go ahead and go into a roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes, and once again, Mr. Dinsmore will be kept on file for the record. When an opening comes up, he will be considered.
Thank you. Mr. Lott?
I have matters for closed session tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Kazmore?
Thank you, Council President. Over the last number of weeks, we've had a series of meetings in closed session about the formulation of our affordable housing plan. One of the considered projects is Lanadex. They have requested through the Township Attorney's Office the opportunity to make a 10-minute presentation to the Council. So I'd ask them to come forward to make said presentation, and then I have a few other items. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have to say when I'm stepping down, or I just step down?
Stay or leave?
I can sit down there.
Yeah.
Councilmember
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Peterson is recused from this matter.
Correct.
She'd like to leave the dais.
Right, and just before Mr. O'Neill starts, for purposes of council, the request that received from Lanadex was to have the property studied to determine whether or not it is in need of redevelopment. That's a threshold determination for council. If council believes that it's worthy of study, that matters then referred to planning board, and the planning board will actually conduct a study and then report back to council.
Thank you. With that, Joseph O'Neill of Garofalo O'Neill Ruggiero here on behalf of the property owners of these two parcels, 1H, 7H Lanadex LLC and 8H, 9H Lanadex LLC. But I'm just going to refer to them collectively as Lanadex for simplicity's sake. The property is block 392, lots 1 and 2, along Parsippany Road. You're probably familiar with the Lanadex parcel. It's about 45 acres. The first lot, Lot 1, consists of two buildings built in 1983. There's about 114,000 square foot of office space there. It's about 48% vacant. The other one is 7 lots, so 7 buildings consisting of 335,000 square feet, give or take. That is 63% vacant. The whole parcel is 45 acres, as I said. Lanadex has changed hands a number of times over the last 10 years, probably about 7 times between the 2 parcels, being taken back and forth between developers and the bank, basically. The project for Lot 2 was originally referred back in 2014 to the planning board for consideration of a redevelopment plan. At that time, it was going to be a mixed-use redevelopment, but the developer simply failed during that process, so that never gained fruition back in that court. The whole property is very old, and it's a very dilapidated state. I can give you some numbers about what's going on in the market, which will explain kind of what's been going on here. Since the economic recession, we have 9 years, 10 years right now of vacancy. The net absorption is 3.95 million square feet back in 2015 for office spaces of this type. That has dropped down since that time to 1.9 million square feet of office space in the last year, which means the offices are just not being occupied the way they used to be occupied. The vacancy rate in New Jersey is 14.7% for office space. But Parsippany is in a very unique place. Parsippany has 500,000 square foot of office space per mile, where the state has 47,000 square foot of office space per mile. So you're feeling the effects more acutely now in Parsippany because of your oversupply of offices. Your vacancy rate is 27%. So what do we do about this project? What do we do about this problem? So Mr. Lott indicated there are certain criteria that you could analyze regarding this. And the conditions on the site are very dilapidated, especially on Lot 2, where the buildings date from 1976. The buildings are old in a serious state of disrepair. They just don't have the amenities available to them. It would need to be stripped down to the steel to be redeveloped. Now, we've had some experts that have prepared some reports which are attached to our application, which should be in your possession. And you'll see there that we've done an analysis of what it would take to redevelop this property. And it works out to be about $503 a square foot to redevelop these buildings, which given current market conditions is just not going to work. The rates back when the economic recession hit in 2009, you were getting about $21 a square foot. Right now, you're getting about $23 a square foot. It hasn't really recovered. You're still in that same range of rental space per dollar. What you have going on in Parsippany, you probably notice, is you have offices and tenants moving back and forth between different projects and different buildings. So the office market in Parsippany, because there's so much available space, is cannibalizing itself. So that's one of the reasons why we're asking that you take some of this inventory away through redevelopment. Now, this project here at Lanadex, we've been talking to the township and its professionals. We started out talking about a mixed-use project, which is what was originally considered in 2014 for Lot 2. That was going to be a mixed-use project with apartments and offices and shops. And also, in 2014, there was some talk about moving Town Hall there, though I don't know how public that actually became. Of course, nothing came of that. And this project has now been changed. We've moved away from the mixed-use proposal that we had, and we're now just going with strict residential. We scaled it back very dramatically from what was originally proposed to the township and its team. And the most important thing, because we've lost these mixed-use elements, these commercial and office elements in this project, is we are no longer asking for a pilot in connection with this project. So that's one of the things we're looking for when it gets sent down to the planning board for consideration. They do not need to consider whether or not it's viable for a pilot. They just need to consider whether or not the site needs to be rehabilitated. Now, as I said, the vacancy rate is very high in Parsippany. Parsippany is feeling the pinch because of the abundance of office space that was built back in 1983 in the mid-'80s. And it was a very good idea in the mid-'80s because you had all this space was occupied, you didn't have any students, and the traffic left on the weekends. So it was a good idea then, but I'm afraid now, given the market conditions that I outlined, it's just not viable anymore. Square footage for employees in these offices that we see now is being greatly reduced. That's because I saw one study that said 40% of people employed in offices work from home at least 2 days a week. So they're just not showing up anymore. This parking demand's going up in the space. This is a sea of parking here right now for these empty offices. There's 1,100 spaces on site right now, including 48 handicap spaces right now, which is basically a sea of blacktop. So we're asking the board to make a motion this evening to refer this down to the planning board so they can study the repurposing of this project. Thank you very much.
I have a question for Mr. O'Neill. You mentioned that there had been a prior proposal. Was that referred to planning board, and was there a finding made?
It was referred to planning board, but the process was stopped when the developer failed.
So there was no finding made?
There was no finding. I believe that there was one hearing, but there was no findings. No findings. It was never completed. And that was lot 2.
That was only lot 2?
It was only lot 2 because the properties were in different ownership. Different ownership from what's there right now. But this is for the combined site now.
Is there ongoing litigation with Lanadex and Parsippany right now?
Well, Lanadex is involved in the affordable housing lawsuit that you've been hearing a lot about. Right now, they're an interested party, and Lanadex has sought to intervene in that case. So I thank the council for its time and hope that you would see fit to refer this to the planning board for further study. If there are no more questions, have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you.
Through you, Council President, Mr. Locke, could you explain to the governing body and the public the next steps if the council was inclined to make a referral to the planning board?
So if council wishes to refer it to planning board, it may do so by motion. That motion can be entertained tonight, and then the letter and the accompanying study that was provided by Lanadex representatives will be transmitted to the planning board. And council also has the alternative of taking no action on the request.
I'd like to suggest that we not vote at this time, but discuss this further amongst our council.
All right, so moving on.
Mr. Kazmark, you said you had
Thank
some
you.
other stuff.
Yes, we have multiple items tonight for executive session. One being the continuation of the affordable housing discussion, which I referenced earlier. One litigation matter. We'll also be discussing the ongoing negotiations with Blue Collar Local 1 and 2 personnel matters, Council President.
Thank you. Okay, Township Clerk, Mr. Madden.
No report at this time, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you. Township offices, committees, reports, anything? Council members?
Not at this time.
Nothing. Okay. All right, bids taken, to be taken, January 24th, SCADA system improvements, January 30th, reconstruction of Edgewood Court, February 1st, Knoll West Country Club irrigation system replacement, February 1st, rehabilitation services for wells 12, 17, and 19. Quotations, proposals, qualifications, none. This time I'll entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Okay, the floor is now open to the public.
Okay, if you come up, please state your name, sign in. You'll be given 5 minutes.
Yes, that was sent to the clerk. I'd like to let them know the letter if I know that's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't have any of that stuff. Okay. I'm gonna ask, come on.
My name is Bob Venezia. I live at 102 Brooklawn Drive. The courts have established Parsippany's affordable housing obligation at about 1,300 units to be completed by 2025. To achieve this goal, given a 15% set-aside rate, a total of 8,700 affordable and market rate units will probably have to be constructed, increasing the total number of housing units in Parsippany by about 33%. By extension, there's going to be a corresponding 33% increase in student enrollments, traffic, demands on municipal services such as water and sewer. But there's another seldom mentioned area that will be affected by this uncontrolled, court-mandated growth, and that is open space. In order to maintain Parsippany's existing percentage of open space, the total amount of open space in the township must also be increased by 33%. Preserving this additional space will ensure that residents old and new will be able to enjoy current levels of active and passive recreation even after the town becomes overdeveloped. But there's also another benefit to preserving additional open space now for future use. When the Fair Share Housing Center, FSHC, calculates the affordable housing obligation for a municipality, one of the most important factors, if not the most important factor, is the amount of undeveloped land in the municipality. So, by reducing the amount of land that can be developed in Parsippany, the township can proactively achieve a limited degree of reduction of its affordable housing obligation without having to physically construct units. Parsippany's affordable housing quota for the current cycle has already been established. However, the FSHC reevaluates and recalculates that number every 10 years, with the next assessment taking place in 2025. Parsippany can and should use the 6 years between now and 2025 to preserve recreational open space for the anticipated 33% growth in households. And we just saw Lanadex is they're going to contribute. At the same time, land preservation will also reduce the amount of buildable land in the township and therefore reduce the number of affordable units we will be required to provide for the next 10-year cycle. The council has the tool to preserve open space, and that is the Open Space Fund. For the next 6 years, we should use open space money to take as many undeveloped acres in Parsippany offline as possible, which in turn will lower the number of affordable units that we have to build. Reducing the affordable housing quota calculated by the FSHC's formula by, let's say, 300 units is greatly preferable to building 300 affordable units plus another 1,700 market rate units to achieve the same results. At the same time, we would be using the Open Space Fund as it was intended, and that's to preserve the current percentage of recreational areas and to protect some of the natural spaces in our community from the threat of overdevelopment. Please carefully consider this proposal to limit the amount of overdevelopment in Parsippany and to leave some open space for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments?
I will say that, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody up here, but we're not dealing with a whole lot of open space. We're dealing with property that has already been developed that we're asking to reconsider its use and purpose. If there is available open space that's being considered, the owner knows and the value just quadrupled. So we have to be mindful of what open space we're talking about, who owns it, and how it's getting appraised, because it's not going to be appraised at an affordable, or it's not going to be appraised as open space and undevelopable land, because now anyone who owns it knows that the price is valuable.
Well, you're converting existing like existing office buildings. But when they calculate the formula, they're still taking into account open space.
Sure,
And-
no, I'm
and
saying
based
if
on
we-
that, you're going to have to build, our quota for the next cycle is probably going to be the same as it is this cycle, because we have the same amount of open space.
But if we knew that there was a field somewhere that we wanted to purchase, the owner of that field knows that they can ask whatever they want if we are going to purchase it, and we have a limited amount of resources in that open space fund. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. We just have to use it wisely, because anyone who's selling a piece of property is thinking about what's the value of that property, not as a field of grass, but as something that a government body is going to consider buying.
Well, yeah, okay, you're speculating on what they're thinking. Give it a shot.
Well, we've, just to add on to that, Ms. Peterson's on the right track, but we have been buying property, open space, as it becomes available, that which is at a price that we can afford. We've been doing that for years. That's not something new. The township owns, Ed, what, about 600 or 700 acres of open space, all right, that we've been buying over all the years. So that's not a new concept. We've been doing that.
Right, I want you to do more of it. Take it out of circulation as much as you can.
I'm appealing to your pragmatic side, Mr. Venezia.
Thank you.
See no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes,
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Okay, ordinances, introduction, none. Second reading and public hearing, none. Non-consent agenda, Mr. DePiero.
Resolution 2019-43, Cash Management Plan Amendment. Motion to approve the resolution above.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ms. McCarthy.
R 2019-044, resolution of the Township Council of the Township Parsippany-Troy Hills authorizing a grant application for the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse for fiscal grant cycle July 2019 through June 2020. Motion to approve the resolution?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ms. Peterson.
Resolution 2019-45, appropriation transfer. Motion to approve the resolution.
Second?
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consent agenda, Ms. Grignani.
Be it resolved, all items listed with an asterisk are routine and non-controversial by the Township Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. DePiero. Payroll and bills list.
CFO Ancucci recommends authorization for payment. Authorized payment of the January 26th, 2019 regular and miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1,800,000. 2, payment of bills from voucher list 1/1/2019 through 1/16/2019 totaling $3,363,218.59. Motion to approve the authorization for payment above.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Executive session, Ms. Peterson.
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss litigation, affordable housing, litigation, James Carriffy versus the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, negotiations, Blue Collar Association Local 1, and personnel matters. And whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. Motion to adjourn into closed session.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
We will now adjourn into closed session. We may be taking action after closed session, just for the audience. Thank you.
Going on the record? You're gonna make the motion, and you're gonna second it?
Oh wait, I'm not even.
Give me a thumbs up.
No, goodbye.
Entertain a motion to reconvene.
Motion,
Need a second?
we need a second.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call. Ms. Grignani?
Yes,
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, we're back in open session.
Okay, so you're gonna do the,
What are they gonna do first? In regard to the Lanadex, proposal, Ms. McCarthy?
yeah, I make a motion to move that to the planning board.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Grignani, to move the Lenadex proposal to the planning board for review. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes. So what I will be doing is I'll prepare a memo to be sent to the planning board secretary so they can begin the review. So now that that's over, I would also want to make a correction for the record. Previously, council member DePiero had made a recommendation and a motion to appoint Mr. Vincent Schindel and Mr. Eric Densmore to the Traffic Advisory Committee. I had misspoke. We can have another individual to be appointed. So at this point, I'd like a motion and a second for Mr. Eric Densmore to be appointed to the Traffic Advisory Committee,
I'll make the
please.
motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani, for appointing Mr. Densmore to the Traffic Advisory Committee. We are going to roll call. Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to reconvene into closed session.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call. Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
We're now going back into closed session. Make the motion again, please.
I make a motion that we reconvene?
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by seconded by Ms. Peterson. We are awaiting Ms. McCarthy. All right, so hold on, don't hit it yet. Roll call. Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Hit it.
Meeting
All
adjourned.
right.
Thank you for waiting.
Adjourned.